Hello everyone, welcome to another live stream. So hopefully everything is working okay. I know you've obviously got my other camera in shot, but a little limited on space, as I've said before. So yeah, trying to do this on the desk, but not an awful lot of space. So we'll just see how we get on. And what we'll do is switch over to this camera when we actually start looking at this. So I'll just give it a couple of minutes. And if anyone's watching, you can let me know if the audio is okay. That'd be great. Thank you. So what we are doing today is looking at the EIBOS I did look up how to say this. Polyphemus. The Polyphemus filament dryer. Now so obviously we'll get the disclosure bit out of the way. EIBOS were kind enough to send this to me. They reached out and said, would you like to have a look at it, give us your views on it, etc. And I had actually been looking for a replacement filament dryer to the one I've got, which is just up there. It's an ERI1 filament dryer, and that's got some issues, which I'm hoping this filament dryer solves for me personally. And the reason I was looking at a filament dryer is because I've been now getting the tool changer, the E3D tool changer, into a bit of operation. I need to really make sure I'm tuning everything to the best of my ability to get good prints. And I think filament preparation, if you want to call it that, is going to be very important, because I'm noticing sort of a little bit of stringing and this, in this sort of semi outdoor building environment, I don't think it's great for the filament anyway. So yeah, so let me just check my phone, make sure I've got no messages with regards to the stream and whether it's working or not. I've already put a tweet out to say that I was going live, so hopefully people will be turning up. So let's just get on with it. Okay, so let me switch you over to the other camera. Oh my god, it's Richard. All working, excellent, thank you. So we're going to switch over to this camera so you can actually see me building. Just going to move something at my feet. So I also got let me turn that off. So this is the main box. How is your build going? And then this was in another box with this, and we'll come to this in a second. I believe this is part of like an extension kit, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really opened everything up and had a proper look, so I just wanted to basically build it and look at it with you. So I think what we'll do is we'll obviously get the instructions out, so we've got them, and I think what I'll do is I'll just get everything out and then we'll just build it along with the instructions. So I'm just going to move this box over to the side and basically get stuff out. So let's have a look what we've got. Plenty of foam packaging, which is good. A UK power lead, which is great. And one thing I do want to mention actually, so there's a link in the description, which is an affiliate link if you wish to use that. Now it says that they're on pre-order or pre-sale or something like that. I would actually say that they should have used the words back order, because these have been shipping out. I know at least one person in the UK who has one. So they are shipping out, and I think basically what's happened is that they maybe made, say, 20, 30 of them, and they sold out, and then rather than just selling them continuously without them, they've put them on this sort of pre-sale. But it's more of a back order, so that so what I'm saying is, it's not like you're going to buy it and you're not going to know if it's going to ship out. They're on a back order and they will be shipping out, is my understanding. So I just wanted to point that out. Next little bag. So I obviously poked my head in the top of the box to see what was what. And we've got some like rubber O-rings, some screws, and this is and there's a motor, and I'm not sure if that's a spare or if we have to put that in. So we'll come to that in the instructions, I guess. But if it's a spare, that's kind of good that they've given you that just straight in the box. I thought that was quite an interesting thing to see. And then if I get this out, this is like the main base for the filament dryer. And then everything else is basically just panels. So I'm just going to put this box over here, and then we'll have a look at the instructions and see what it asks us to do first. But yeah, so we've got a few things to look at. So this is the normal sort of advice before you start operating it. Understand that it's obviously a heating device, blah blah blah, don't open it when it's turned on, that sort of thing. And then it sort of gives you a little bit about the specifications. Now you're not going to be able to read this, I'm sure, but I'll just read some of the key information to you. So it is available in the 2 voltages that are used across the world. Got 130 watt rated power. It's got a humidity range of 10% to 99%, and a temperature range of 30 to 70 degrees C. And they're saying it's for 1.75 mil filament, which is the reason they're saying that is because it has like some holes, outlets that we can put the filament through to use it while it's in the dryer. But there's no reason why you can't dry 3mm filament in here if you have it. And it has a lifespan for the motor of 1500 hours, and they're saying that it's replaceable. So I guess maybe that is a spare. And then it's telling you some size, maximum spool size. So it's saying if you're using 2 spools in here, then each spool, I guess, can be 210 by 80 millimeters, 210 millimeters by 80 millimeters. But if you were using a single spool, it can be 210 by 170. And then it's saying below that, by utilizing expansion parts, the capacity of the device can be increased to accommodate up to 250, so high, by 170 wide. So I've got over there a massive, or not massive, but an odd shaped spool, which I'll show you later. And I'd be interested to see if that fit. I don't think it will, but we'll see. And then the next page is basically showing you the device put together and then pointing out each part of it. And then over here we have like an included parts list. So there's the handle, frame, the panels, some PTFE tube, power lead, silicon stopper, etc. So yeah, basically we could just get ahead and start putting this together. So to see what else is in the box, I think there's a couple of other bits we need to get out. This is we'll have a look at that in a second, but that comes out of there, I think, by the look of it. We'll have a look at that. Let's have a look at the panels. So we've got the top panel here, which has got a vent on, and then 3 sort of outlets if you wanted to put filament out of those. Another piece of foam. And then we've got some more acrylic panels. I assume they're acrylic. And then, oh, I can lift that whole thing out. So, oops. The more parts of the lid, and then basically the sides of the device. So I'll just have a look, see if there's anything else in the box. I don't think there is. It's well packaged. There's foam all the way around the box. I don't think there's anything else. So let's get rid of a couple of bits that we don't need just quite yet. So we'll take the main device out of the way. Take the power lead out of the way. And I'll put the acrylic panels there as well. Okay. So move my chair a bit closer. So let's get the actual hardware out. So yeah, we've got like this extra motor, I assume is extra, with a plug on the top. I'm just gonna zoom this in and make sure we're focused correctly. Okay, hopefully we should be focused better now. So yeah, let's get this stuff out. So yeah, a bit of PTFE tube. Looks like a 4 by 3, so or 3 mil inner diameter by a 4 mil outer. And then we have a separate bag with our hardware in. We have got an Allen key, so we'll leave that in the bag for now. So the first step on the instructions is to basically put a part of the frame together, and it's got a picture. This little picture here is saying that you don't want to use the part of the frame that has the indents or the extra little parts on the sides. So if I can get that there, you can just see that it's got these parts on the side. So we don't want that part yet. And we want this other one. And basically we put the uprights in and then the panels. So we should probably do a bit of panel preparation. And if anyone's got any comments, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll have a look at those if I can. So at least the panels aren't using that rather annoying paper type covering. And then this one's got the logo on, the EIBOS or EIBOS or however you want to say it. I'll try to do this sort of away from the microphone so it's not too loud. So each panel is individually covered on the front and back. So only where it's touching the other side is where it's actually quite hard to pull off. And that probably is very loud for you, so I do apologise if it is. Yeah, so it comes off one side better than the other. But yeah, it's quite, some of these are quite difficult to get off. So just one more, and then this is the top. Comes off a lot easier. And there's that vent on the top. Okay, so let's put the panels over here a second. So what it wants us to do is basically take these upright pieces, and these upright pieces are plastic, but they've got some threaded inserts in the ends. I don't know if you can see that. I don't think they go sort of a particular way, so we can just put them in the side, basically in the lower frame, like that. I actually had a look on printables before I went live today, and there's already some EIBOS do other filament dryers, and there's a few mods that are on printables. I think there's a couple for this as well, and they're basically I think there was a handle and some ones to make basically another extension if you wanted to make it even bigger. So basically once you've done that, you then have to put the panels in. So we'll put this one in the back. And these basically just go down, and they don't like push in or anything, they're just held in the channels. Because they're a little not warped, but they're basically that we need to put the whole thing together before it will stay together. So then we got the side ones. Once we get that top frame on, this will all stay together. There we go. And then step 3 is to basically put that other part of the frame on, which will then hold everything together. So grab that. And then let's see what it says. If there's any instructions. So yeah, so this will basically go with access to these inserts facing up, because this is where we will screw the handle into. This might be a little bit fiddly to get all this lined up, so we'll try and take it a bit slow. Just make sure we get that all lined up. There we go. And then we just push this all the way down. Yeah, and then we're then putting the lid, and I'm just going to get the handle out so I can get rid of this. And then it wants us to put the vent at the front. So basically just like that. And then step 5 is to basically use the screws and put it all together basically. So we'll now get the screws, and what I've done is put that on the inside. Get that out. So all we're really putting together is the lid. The base itself is already put together. So in this bag we've got our little rubber stops, little grommet things, our 2 O-rings, and then I think by the look of it all the screws are the same size, so we don't need to hunt through for any particular size. And I'll just double check by looking at the parts list. Yeah, so they're M2.5 by 10s, and there's 10 of them, so that's pretty simple. So we'll put the 4 corners in, and I have put this upside down, so this is actually countersunk, so make sure you put that the right way around. And we'll just put some in the corners to start with. This is obviously will also sort of square the lid up a bit. Yeah, make sure I was doing it correctly. Then by the look of the instructions, we also have to put some in the bottom of this what we've put together already, and that will obviously hold the bottom section on. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And for some reason my camera likes to occasionally turn off for a split second, but hopefully we should be back. So what I'm going to do before I put the handle on is to flip this over and do those ones on the bottom. So what has everyone been up to so far this weekend? Need to make sure that these go in without too much resistance, because if there's a lot of resistance, that means you've probably started to cross thread something, which has not been up to a lot, apart from avoiding a fire on his coloured fork. Just worked out what it was, causing hot and bad pin reference. Yeah, something to be careful of when building a printer is that you can't always trust. I'm not saying this is what Richard's done, but there's a lot of people who will put their configs online, including me. Mine are also online, but not everyone will build their printer the same way. For example, the Octopus board has several heater outputs, and so you may choose to use one in your config which other people don't, or the other way around. And Graham has making a frequency counter based on Heltec ESP32 and OLED display. Don't understand most of what you just said, but it sounds pretty cool. So this screw is a little bit harder to go in, and it's not because it's not lining up. It's basically because the threaded insert isn't quite straight. So we're not cross-threading anything. We're just having to work at it a little bit more to get it to go in. And then once we've got past the spot that was crooked, it's going in much easier now. I'll go back to using their tool. And then the rest of them all went in pretty easy. Making a frequency counter based on. So feel free to explain exactly what that is, Graham. I understand obviously ESP32 and the OLED display, but what is the frequency of? Okay, so let's turn this back over. We've got those four in. There we go. And then we can put our handle on. The handle basically goes on the top like that. And so this, someone actually asked me this on Twitter with regards to how easy it is to operate, basically putting filaments in and out. And basically you don't, so you can do it with one hand from what I can tell. We're just going to be using the handle. Let me see if I can line this up. So we haven't got to, like, as he sort of suggested, use multiple hands. We can literally, we don't have to have a third pair of hands. Basically we can just do it with one hand to take the lid off. Now I probably won't be using this to feed filament straight to the printer, mainly because of this one. So it's going to go on mostly with use for the tool changer, which is a Bowden setup, and the spools are mounted on the inside, and they're on the side of the machine so that they clear the bed from going up and down. So this is more for me going to be to dry filament to then put in the machine. But we might try and use this in some instances where we do feed directly into the machine. So that's what we've got these 3 holes on the front here for. And the instructions is telling us, did it tell us to put the stops in? No, but I'm going to put them in anyway because I'm not going to be using them. I think there's a couple of others on the base unit itself. So yeah, basically we've put the lid together. Just got to put these spare parts into the bag. Okay, you can input any frequency between 1 Hz and 40 for a GPIO pin, and the frequency measured is displayed on the display. Nice. So is that similar to a, what are they called? Oscilloscope? Is that the right word? That's more for, I don't know, I'm just making it up. That sounds pretty cool. I'd love to be able to do more, as Richard knows, some programming language of some description. Perfectly alright following tutorials and sort of trying to understand what the code that I might be using does, but I haven't got a clue about writing code. So if we bring this unit back over, I'm going to turn it around the front so I can look at it. So this basically is our unit, and then our lid just sits on top. Pretty simple, works. I'll just make sure you can see that. Get rid of these tools because I didn't realize basically how simple this build was going to be. So I did get some tools ready, and I'm not sure what these O-rings are for just yet. So let's go to the next page. So the next page basically shows us using the display. So actually what we'll do first, because it's on the very next page, is the next page does actually talk about this extension kit. So what this extension kit does, I'm just trying to work out if we, no, so it doesn't appear that we have to take anything off what we've already done. So maybe we'll have a look at that as well, because this was going pretty quick. So let's shut that lid. Get this out just so that if I need it I can grab it. We'll move this over to here, and then we'll come have a look what came in this box. Exactly my problem. I'm trying to combine 2 lots of code for this project. So what we have in here is some more little extension pieces, some more acrylic parts. Worked out what was wrong with my PT1000. It was totally broken. So this is showing us just one piece. Now I'm not entirely sure if we have everything we're supposed to, because this is sort of suggesting the factory capacity of the dryer is 210 by 170. After adding the expansion parts, the capacity will increase. Expansion parts are not included in the factory configuration, can be purchased separately on the EIBOS official website. So what I'm trying to work out here is if we need to take apart some of the lid or not, because we've only got one part here, but it kind of suggests that we sandwich something together. So I'm not entirely sure if there's a part missing or what. There's definitely not another part in the box, because basically this will our extension pieces will go in here, but then they can't go in the bottom of this. So I'm not entirely sure if we're supposed to have an extra part. That will obviously sit on there. Yeah, odd. So maybe we'll ignore this, because I think there's a part missing. Let me just grab this box. Yeah, so there's no extra part in here. So I think we might be missing a part, because it doesn't tell us to disassemble the lid in any way. We're just basically supposed to bolt, replace the M4 short screws with the long screws. Yeah. So I think we're a part missing. Grab the box, so we'll ignore that for now, and I'll reach out to EIBOS and see what they say. But yeah, so how exactly does a PT1000 break? So let me find something I can unplug, which will be this. And I'm going to plug our cable for our dryer in. And that's that cable there. And we just bring this over. We can plug it in and see what it does. So let's plug it in. So this is the 230 volt. Let me just, before I do that, I'm just going to have a look on the bottom. It's the weird screw-in style. Yeah, so on the bottom here is where our motor goes. So the one we got in the box was a spare, and then basically that's the only easily accessible part on the bottom. It looks like the cable got pulled tight and disconnected from the actual probe. Maybe too sharp an angle, possibly. Yeah. So these two little spaces here in the base are for desiccant to go in, which I don't have any of. I need to get some of the rechargeable stuff. So I'll put those two covers back in. And it does look as if the O-rings are, again, spares, because there's little O-rings that I can see on these rollers at the back. Because one of the nice features about this filament dryer is that it actually rotates the spools as well. Let's plug this in and have a look. We'll put the lid on, and I will grab a spool in a second so that we can visually see what it does. So where's the instructions? So what I might do is lower the camera a bit and then show you on that screen. So what I'm going to do is switch over to this, and then somewhere there's a button I can press that will let me I'm just going to move the camera, and then we'll see what we do. So let me put this camera down a bit further. There we go, and we'll perfect. So let's turn it on. So it immediately comes on and tells us a bit of information. So if we look at the instructions in here, it will tell us. So it's obviously set for PLA. The SV value is the temperature that it's going to aim for. The 95 is the humidity. So I'm not sure if it is actually 95% humidity. We've got heating level. So heating level is this fan here, and we'll go through changing those in a minute. We've got actual temp, which is 15.8 at the moment, and then remaining time. So it's doing a 4-hour cycle, and we can press some buttons to show us some stuff basically. So this, let me put that there. So this option button is now highlighting the filament, so we can switch between the ones that are preset. Let me just go back to the beginners. We've got PLA, we've got ABS, PA, PC, PETG, ASA, PVA, TPU, PP, and then we've got 1, 2, 3 programmable settings. We'll go to ABS. Excuse me. And then we press the settings button to switch and change temperature. Or by the looks of it, we can just go to it and it will change. But we can then also, we want to increase or decrease the temperature. And then this is the button that is like the fan control. We've then got a timer. I don't know how we change. Let's see how we change this. Okay, so it is actually speeding up. You can see the temperature is rising right there. And obviously the humidity level is coming down because it's now realized that it's not 90% humidity. And then this button here actually rotates. So let's get a spool and we can put it in and actually watch it rotate. So I'm just going to have to take my microphone off a second. Okay, I'm back. So I've just grabbed some actual ABS, so we can just put that on there like that. That lid sits down on there, and you obviously can see the thing updating. Let me just see if I can focus that a bit better. And if we press this rotate button, then the spool actually does rotate. Now it doesn't always, I don't know if this is doing one side at a time. It doesn't seem to always rotate. There you go. I'm just trying to work out if it does like one side at a time. Yeah, so it is trying to rotate it, but it's not having a lot of success. I think if we perhaps move it that way a touch, but it's definitely getting a lot warmer in there. Let's see if that improves the rotation, and you can't really see that. Let me just move that up a bit. So yeah, it's trying to rotate it, but it's not quite doing it. And that could just be that the spool is either not heavy enough, or it's the edge is too shiny. Hey Matt, nice to see you. Let me just grab, I've got one, here we go. So I know this is empty, but I want to see if the cardboard spool will rotate. So yeah, that's rotating. That's rotating quite nicely. But the spool with some filament on isn't rotating that well at all. I think there's some troubleshooting in here that talks about the thing rotating. And we'll just, before we get too much further, we'll just go through the options for for filament routing. So you can actually use these holes at the front here, I believe, or are they, or is it just the back? No, so I think it's just the back. Yeah, so there's two holes at the back that says you can put the PTFE tube in. Yeah, so the make sure that's still in view for you. Just stop the rotation. So let me take that one out actually. That was just an empty spool. So let's go back to this. The product is equipped with 3 directional 3D printing filament outlets, and you can choose freely the outlet direction based on the printer's position. Adding a PTFE tube can make feeding smoother. We obviously have the ones in the top. It appears that we should have some at the back, and I'm not sure if these are ones at the front as well or not. You can technically put a PTFE tube in the front there as well, so you could use front, back, or top. And obviously the top ones we put those grommets in. But yeah, you can just push the filament in, or the PTFE tube in, just like that. So yeah, so that's basically the unit itself. It will be interesting to see how, if we can actually get up to 60. I'm just trying to feel around the unit to see if there doesn't feel as if the heat is coming out anywhere, so it is all contained within the unit. What it says on the little thing on the top, the vent on the top, is that you should not close the air outlet when drying, because basically what you want to do is you do want somewhere for moisture to get out. You'd think that you'd want it to be fully enclosed, but actually you do want some ventilation. And then the manual also tells us about the 2 spots at the back to put some desiccant in. So just having a look at the FAQs in the back of the manual. There's one about the rotation function, and it basically has, so the question is, the rotation function is not working, and it's telling us 3 things. A, to check the rotation motor. Now the motor is working because they do move. Check if the spool is jammed, which it shouldn't be. And then the other option is examine if the spool is slipping on the roller shaft. If so, you can remove any sharp edges, such as mold lines, because the spools are mostly ABS molds. Let me see, where did we get to? On the edges of the spool. Alternatively, you can apply 3D printer adhesive or damping oil on the roller shaft to increase friction. So basically what we're seeing is that the potentially the spool is not gripping enough. So we can get it to move, but it seems to sort of get stuck occasionally. So it does work, but as you saw with the cardboard spool, that worked a lot better. So it's more down to the individual spool that you're using. And the reason for the rotation is just to better get the heat to all of the filament. So a lot of filament dryers will heat from the bottom, and if the top of your filament dryer is not as hot as the bottom, then you'll have perhaps 2 different levels of dryness. So what this is meant to do is basically just rotate the spool around. But we'll turn that off for now. So you can see that it says that the humidity's got down to 10%. We're coming up to 45 degrees. So we're still trying to reach that 60, but it seems to be working quite nicely. So I just need to work out from EIBOS whether there's a part missing for our extension kit, because we've only got one plastic frame in there. So I'm just going to move the camera up again, just so we can get an overview. I'll put you on that view. So if anyone has any questions about the unit, please feel free to post. I will try my best to answer. But yeah, it's I quite like it, in the sense that it's going to allow us to dry 2 spools at once. I can show you my other filament dryer. That's just this little one here, which I don't particularly like very well because the lid, when it gets too far back, actually rocks. Like, I'm not touching that, and it's making the whole thing rock. And I'm not entirely sure. This never really gets above 45, maybe sometimes not even above 40. So we can already see we're now at 50 on this filament dryer. It looks fairly chunky for just 2 spools. I like the look of the 4-spool Sunloom. Okay. I guess it's chunky in the sense that the base, which is where everything is housed, is fairly thick. But I think because you've got probably about an inch of space on the top, and then because it suggests that you can put larger spools in, which brings me to this weird spool that I've got here. With the extension kit, you can obviously put larger spools in. Now this is the weird spool that I've got. Now I don't think this is going to fit without the extension. Yeah, so if I had the extension on, I'd actually be able to dry this spool. It's the whole filament dryer is wide enough, is deep enough, but I'm not quite got the height. So with that extension kit, I'd actually be able to dry that, which is actually I'm a little bit surprised about, because that is such a weird spool that I've never been able to dry it. It doesn't fit in. The only thing I did used to have was a food dehydrator, but I don't know how effective that actually was. Whereas this is at least now getting up to, so we're at 51 degrees, and you obviously can feel the heat coming out of the vent at the top, which as I said, is what you want. You want the moisture to be able to get out, basically. I think I'm not sure. I'm just gonna have a look and see what other filament dryers EIBOS do. Have a look. I know they do a few different filament dryers, but so there's a single and a dual, and then this is obviously a dual one. So potentially as Richard points out, maybe a 4-spool one would be a good option for them to look at in the future. So we're coming up to 54 degrees now. So I think it's definitely heating better than my one up there. I like the fact that it's a one-handed removal of the top. Now obviously, where I could potentially see an issue, I don't particularly like and I don't use the filament dryer to house the spool as I use it. So other people will be better to answer this question as to whether having to feed the filament through the top, which is your lid, how well that works. I'm just gonna have a quick drink. But so far, I actually quite like this. And chances are, as I said at the beginning, this is going to be more for my tool change stuff, which is all PLA. So I'm mostly going to be using PLA on here, although I will be obviously drying some ABS filament as well. I don't have any of the more exotic stuff at the moment, but knowing that the machine can do that, and it actually does have a little table in here, and I assume this is like the preset temperature values. So it does PLA, ABS, PETG, PA, TPU, PC, ASA, PVA and PP, as I said. and then each one of those has its own temperature preset. So PLA is 50, for example, and then we've got PC polycarbonate is a 70, and then it has a timer preset for each one as well. So PLA 4 hours, ABS was 2 hours, PA is 12 hours, etc. And then a heating level, which is effectively basically how much, I guess, how much the air is circulated around with the fan and how quickly it gets up to temperature. So we're basically now at 59.5 degrees, so we're nearly at our target of 60. So yeah, it looks quite good to me. I guess if you are in a situation where you need to dry more than 1 or 2 spools, then you're obviously going to need that larger capacity. But yeah, for me, this will work perfect. So we've slightly overshot our temperature. We're now at 61.3. So I'd be interested to see if that comes down or if it's going to keep rising. Don't know if anyone else has any questions. I'm going to have to jump off for a bit. Be back shortly. Okay, thanks you, Richard. I will probably only be maybe another half an hour. So if you're not going to be back by 4 o'clock my time, then I will speak to you again at another time. But thanks for coming along. So yeah, so yes, the temperature is actually going down. So it's going to try and maintain that 60 degrees. So we're now down to 61.1. So it's slowly coming down. It's overshot and it's coming down. But yeah, it's quite a nice thing. I will need to buy some of the granule desiccant, which I haven't got. I've got some in like the little bags, but I can then put that in the back, which will help more if I decide to store filament in here before using it. But yeah, doing pretty well. So we're now down to 60.8. So again, it's dropping to get to that target. Let's see if there's anything else interesting in the manual. So let's see what this says. The temperature cannot reach the set value of 70. So this is from their FAQs. When setting the temperature to 70, please ensure that the heating level is set to the maximum, which is what we currently have it at. The heating time should be set for more than 1 hour. Additionally, the exhaust vent opening in the middle position. However, please note that if your ambient temperature is too low, it may not be possible to reach 70. Yeah, which is absolutely fine. So we can actually go into here and change this down to a lower heating time or heating level. Now I haven't noticed if the screen switches off at all. I think it would be perhaps useful if the screen wasn't on all the time, especially if you're going to be heating something for 12 hours, for example. You don't necessarily need the screen on the whole time. This is like still using a Sunlu S1 dryer. I have to open it every 30 minutes to let the moisture out because it doesn't have an exhaust. So this has got the vent on the top. There's a little vent up here. Don't know if you can see that on the camera. Let me try and, there you go. You can see the vent on the top there. you can actually feel the heat coming out of the top. I suppose you could also take the little bungs out of the filament holes at the back as well if you wanted to have a little bit more ventilation. What I want to do at some point, not now that I've actually had it turned on and heated up, but I want to put a temperature probe so it's literally just in the top, and so we can see what the temperature is from the bottom to the top, because obviously I imagine that the temperature sensor for this is quite low down, perhaps near the actual heating element. It'll be interesting to see what the temperature is near the top of the box. I perhaps should have done that before I turned it on, but I've only just remembered I was going to do that. But yeah, so the only thing I need to do is actually go back to EIBOS and say, am I missing a part for the extension? Because that appears the case. And actually really do want the extension, because that will mean I'll be able to use that other spool, or dry that other spool, I should say. And I know I saw a comment, as I said, I was looking on printables and there was a couple of mods on there, one about a one-piece handle. Not sure what the problem with this handle is. It seems to be okay. You just pick it up and do whatever. But yeah. That options button basically just selects your filament. I was wanting to see if that did anything more. But I think I'm gonna turn that off. We'll see what that does, because it's turned off, but it's still showing a humidity level. That is quite interesting. Let's see what the long pressing. Okay. I did see a. So okay, so it's basically like a two-stage off function. Wondering if adding isolation to the acrylic sheets might improve performance. Yeah, could do. So either having an extra layer on the outside, or if the frame was modified, or it would have to probably be a factory thing, but if the frame itself had two slots, so you could actually double up your acrylic, you'd obviously then create that air gap between the two. Good idea. But again, I mean, obviously you could technically, I suppose, print all the lid parts and do that sort of modification if you wanted to. Does sound like a good idea. I should also say that the temperature display can be changed to Fahrenheit if you want to. Doesn't have to be Celsius. That's all explained in the instructions, basically. And you also have the ability to do a factory reset. So if you change some of the settings for to your liking, but then wanted to reset it, you can do that. There's nothing. So what I guess you would have to do if you wanted to create a custom filament profile is to select the M1, 2 or 3 and then go through the menu system setting your temperatures. And I guess that would then be remembered until you reset the unit. So that's something we can test at some point as well. So that has just turned off. So that second press of the power button to actually remove the humidity display turns the unit off. But yeah, I think that's quite a good unit. Obviously I'm going to have to do a bit of testing and see how it performs over a longer drying time and then over several weeks. As I said, they give you a spare motor, and the motor is for the rotation. So at least you've got, and there's a couple of other spare parts in the bag as well that didn't get used. I'm going to put this in here so I don't lose it. And obviously you've got this bit of PTFE tube if you want to. Your printer is literally right next to the unit, you can use that. But yeah, it's quite I quite like the unit. I think it will help me greatly. That's obviously I can't speak to what other people's requirements are for a filament dryer. I think because it's got that option to make it slightly bigger. Can you also directly print straight out of it? Yeah. So it's got, I'll basically turn this. It's got 3 holes out of the top. So you can, they've got little bungs in, so you can take those out. And then what it also says is that, let me try and show you a bit easier. Let me try and unplug this. Okay. So what it says is that you can basically push the PTFE tube through these gaps at the back here. So what you should probably do is just undo. Try and show you. So there's holes. There's 3 holes at the front which you can use. So if you're using one large spool, you can use the middle one, or you've got one on either side for 2 single spools, and that's the same at the back. So again, you can put that PTFE tube in the back here and then feed directly out the back. You can feed out the back, front and top. And these rollers do freely rotate, even though there's a motor attached to the back ones. They do rotate. Really a way to show you, but yeah. So there's 2. These 2 wheels here are powered. Amazing that you can even attach a PTFE tube. Yeah. But it's not just a dryer. It's a, you, like I say, as you've asked, you can dry and use it at the same time. You'd obviously probably want maybe a little bit of a larger piece of PTFE tube, because this is quite a short piece. I guess if you were going out of the top to a direct drive extruder, you'd be all right. But yeah. Might have to see if I've just tightened these screws up a little bit too much, or if they need to. There's a little bit of a rock to the lid, but I might have slightly over tightened something. So if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to ask. Yeah. That vent is basically just you just basically twist it and it opens and closes. I like how they've sort of put it as on and off, but rather than open and closed. But there you go. I noticed that with longer PTG prints, the filament always gets damp during the print, so I always dry and print at the same time. Okay. So I haven't printed that much PTG, although when I do, I've dried it before I've printed. But yeah, as you say, I guess if you're doing a very long print, like a day plus maybe, that will pick up a bit of moisture. So also obviously depends where you are and how humid it is, but I'm not sure how I would. For me personally, I've got obviously the two Vorons behind me and my tool changer. This doesn't really lend itself to work with either of those in that capacity, because unless you, I mean, actually, I'm not saying you couldn't. You'd have to have quite a long piece of PTFE tube, but yeah, there's no reason why you can't. You have I'll see how long this cable is. Yeah, so I'd say that's like 1.5 meter power cable. That's pretty good. So just thinking about the unit itself, I'm trying to think what could be improved just on this design itself. I like the fact that there's an extension kit, but I wonder for that extra, I think it's only like, what did I say it was? That extra piece of length, extra height, there's an extra 40 mil. Is it really worth having that as a separate thing? Why not just make it taller to start with? And as Richard pointed out, he quite likes the 4-spool dryer that you can get from, I think he said Sunlu. That's definitely something they could look at. I'm not sure, for me personally, how much the rotating function would benefit. I think if there's I mean, I can feel when it was on, the air was, it wasn't just sort of leaking out. I could feel it blowing out. So I'm pretty sure that the circulation is good. So I'm not sure how that rotating element is of benefit. And if we were going to go for a 4-spool one, you probably wouldn't want that, because the weight of 4 spools is going to be, reliant on this little motor to do it. But I like the fact that it's an option. You can turn it on or off if you want. So at least there's that. I don't know yet, obviously, until I start using it more, if the screen has like an auto off or a dim function. I'd like that to be an option. Perhaps to include some desiccant to put in the two spaces at the back would be a good idea. But other than that, functionally, it looks as if it works quite well, I think. Obviously, I've got to test it and get some filament in there drying. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. So I think we'll go for another couple of minutes, get us to about an hour and a half. If anyone's got any other questions, please feel free to ask. As I said, there is a link in the description to the EIBOS website. That is an affiliate link. If you don't wish to use it, that's absolutely fine. Just obviously EIBOS, I will get you the address. EIBOS3D.com if you don't want to use the link in the description. One of my printers is in the garage outside at present. I find that the filament fractures after long periods of non-use. Is this down to cold, humid conditions? Yes, I would say that basically it's a little bit contradicts you that the moisture is making it brittle. I believe, but that is definitely something that it's the conditions that it's in has caused that. Now, though this is a garage, it does have insulation in it. So this is like a half of a UK garage. But all of my filament is either in bags which has got desiccant in, or that's not open yet. I have got some filament behind me, which you might be able to see. No, you can't. Is on a storage rack that is open, and that is sort of there to see what the effects are. I've only really had brittle breaking filament on like really old samples that have been left open for ages. And occasionally you'll get, or I will get, if I take one of the spools out of the bag that's maybe been in there well, maybe not 6 months, but like 3 months, the very end will be brittle. But as soon as you get a little bit further around, then it's fine. But I guess if it's left a very long time, then it will affect the whole spool. Go back to that view. Not that you can see a lot, but there you go. So yeah, so the conditions will definitely have an effect on the filament. And I was skeptical as to whether a filament dryer was needed before I got my other one, but for some filaments, PETG definitely, even PETG straight out of a delivery, benefits from being dried. It really does. And I'm going to be drying going forward. I'll probably use both dryers to dry the PLA that I use in the tool changer, because that will just eliminate some of the very wispy strings that I'm seeing on some of the prints. So it's definitely, wetness or humidity does have an effect on the filament, and it affects some places worse than others. Like I'm pretty sure I've heard Steve on Steve Build say that he doesn't see it as bad as some, but where he is not as humid. So PETG without a filament dryer is a non-starter. Also, ABS suffers over time. Yeah, exactly. It's hygroscopic. So, like I say, before I got this other filament dryer I've got up here, this Everyone one, that was definitely something I was unsure about. But having got that one and started drying filament before I use it, you definitely see a difference. You know, if you get to the point where when you're loading filament, you can hear it bubbling, it's got too much moisture in. And sometimes I will even dry filament a couple of days in a row, not full days, but like I'll put it on for a 5-hour cycle. Then next day put it on for another 5-hour cycle before I use it, just to really get moisture out. Yeah, definitely makes a difference. So I'm hoping that this is going to help me with my PLA prints more than ABS, for example, because I'm relatively good at using fresh ABS, whereas the PLA, I have quite a lot of it and it just sits around. So the fact that I can now do 2 spools in here and 1 in that other one will mean I'll be able to get it drier quicker to use it. But I do need to order some of the granulated rechargeable desiccant to put in the back 2 holes, because I only have stuff in like the bags that come in the filament. I think you can get that on Amazon quite easily, so shouldn't be a problem. I suppose I could briefly talk about plans for the channel. So if you had seen the post that I did at the start of the year, you would know that I had rather ambitious plans that obviously haven't turned out because I haven't been streaming every week. Just isn't the way I work, I've realized, and I'd rather do this how I want to do it rather than try and force myself to stream every week. So stuff like this, unboxing stuff like this, is really great for doing live streams because it's something we can do and I can show off and we've got a product at the end of it. Whereas I've been doing a lot of work on my tool changer, and the way I work is I like to come out here, do sort of an hour, half an hour to an hour's work on something, think about what I'm doing, go in, have a cup of tea, sit down, come back out, do a bit more. That doesn't really work for live streams. So stuff where I'm going to be basically tweaking settings and maybe rebuilding a tool head, I'm not going to live stream. That's just something that I'm going to do. But I've got plans for my first Voron V0.1. That's going to be a rebuild. We may even start that next week, where I start disassembling it. And there'll be other projects along the year where I will stream, but don't expect them every week like I did say I was going to do, but I'm now not going to do. But yeah, you'll definitely see more from me. I'm just trying to think where it is. So EIBOS also sent me yeah, I forgot which camera I was on. So in here we've got an extruder, so we may have a look at that at some point as well. I'm just waiting on some CAD files so that I can create a mount for it. But yeah, that's a small lightweight extruder that I'm going to be putting on the tool changer. So we'll show that off at another time. But yeah, so I think that's about it for me, really. Unless there's literally any last questions from people, please feel free to quickly ask them. If you haven't already, and if you're on Discord and would like to, I have a Discord server. There's certainly not like a hive of activity on there. It's just somewhere we can you can show off your projects that you're working on. You can ask questions for me, or if there's something you're not quite sure about on a 3D printing matter, you can ask in there. It's just another place to contact me, basically, along with like all the other social media things down in the description. I've now got, I wouldn't call it a website, it's more just a page that's got my social media links on, and then any affiliate links that I have with various companies, E3D, EIBOS. I think there's one on there for everyone, Printy Please. Just some affiliate links that would help me greatly if you was to use them, but absolutely no pressure. Shop wherever is best for you, basically. But yeah, So I think that's about it really for me. I haven't seen any more questions pop up, so thank you all for watching. Yeah, or if you have a question after watching this, obviously put it in the comments below and I'll get back to you. But yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next live stream. Cheers.